So grab your brush, have a great time. And don't forget to click subscribe. Visit clive5art.co.uk.
Hello and welcome to the studio where we paint away the stress of everyday life, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to undertake a painting of a waterfall and I'm going to make several mistakes in it, and the reason I'm doing that is because there's no point in me telling you not to do something. It's easier for me to show you what not to do and then explain what you can do to recover it or even to prevent it. So with that in mind, let's get the easel. And fingers crossed, we can mess up this painting really badly, and then I can explain how to try and fix it. I'll see you in the studio. So I thought I'd share this with you. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to just go and grab a brush. I got a long-handled Filbert brush here. I'm not going to show you the palette because I'm just using a burnt umber at the moment and a little bit of my medium mix. I'm looking at my reference that I've done, and I've got a riverbank coming along there like this. The reason I'm videoing it like this is because this is what artists do. This is what people do. They try and plan things out, and if this works out really nice, then I'm going to keep it and use it as a lesson. But if it doesn't work out, then I'll just scrap the whole idea. So I'm trying to be honest with you. I'm trying to be honest with you, basically. This is what I wanted to show you, some of the behind the scenes type of things that go on. Sometimes I just grab a brush and just go straight into it. Other times I do try and plan what I'm going to be doing. So I got an idea of a bank like that. And I got a waterfall coming in there, like that. Maybe that should be a bit higher, actually. Maybe that should be a bit higher there, like that. We'll have another platform there. I think I'll leave it at that for the moment. I don't want a big, deep waterfall. Maybe let me just see where I'm going here. We're gonna have some rocks and things down there. This is a bank here that I want to be standing on. I've changed some camera settings as well, so this is a little bit of a difference for me as well. I don't want a big deep waterfall. I just want something like that, maybe. I don't know. Right, okay. It's good to show my thought process sometimes. I'm going to get a mixture paint made up. I'm going to use some Mars black and I think some yellow. I'm going to try and do that. So what I've done is I've mixed up some Mars black and some yellow. I got quite a dark green on my brush. I'm using just a little Filbert brush. I'm using it quite heavily loaded at the moment because I want to try and build up some thick areas here. This is going to be all trees and things. I want a little bit of that yellow ochre background to come through. I was thinking of possibly painting this in black, the background, and I changed my mind. And sometimes when we're planning things, that's always it's always good to play around with different ideas and things. So I can do the edges, don't paint all the edges. I'm going to darken up my green just slightly to the one side because I want it virtually black down there. I'm just putting a little bit of lighter green in. I don't know how long this video is going to take, but we'll soon find out when I've edited it. And it's fun sometimes just to... I thought it'd be nice to do something different. I normally go on and painting away the stress of everyday life and Clive, and that's what I do on a regular basis. I paint away the stress. I'm painting away the stress today, actually. But it's also nice to show you that there's a lot more goes into these lessons than just sitting down and jumping straight in, because a lot of artists don't just jump straight in and paint straight off. They do a lot of planning, and I think it's only fair to share that information with you, because you know, nobody's a miracle worker. Although I will say there's quite a few people, my friend Jason Bowen, one of them, and myself, that sometimes we just sit down and just go for it and see what happens. But what I'm looking for here is just a background. Now I could use a bigger brush. But I want to feel the paint, and I'm also looking at my cameras to make sure I haven't got a lot of glare. I know I'm going to have a bit of glare off one or two of them, maybe, because the paint is wet, but there's not much I can do about that. So I'm going to continue blocking this out, and most probably cut the camera, and you'll see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to be coming along all the way along over here, and I'll cut the camera when I finish that. Okay, so what I've decided to do now is bring a little bit of light green colour. It's more of a yellow than a green, really. It's just what's colours left on my brush, and I've just picked up a bit of yellow. I'm making a complete mess of my palette, but you don't need to see my palette. It's only black and yellow that I'm using at the moment, so I got a little bit of green coming into this water. There we go. I've got to decide where this water is going to be coming over, and I've got to start thinking about some rocks as well, but I'm just going to test out a colour up here just to see if I want to brighten a few things up. I'm just testing out a few colours at the moment. I don't want it too yellow. More of a olivey green, maybe. I might be able to get a bit of raw sienna or something in there, maybe. Got a bit of glare on my canvas because the light is catching, so I don't know whether to bring my easel forward or maybe that would work. Anyway, I'm going to cut the camera now and I'm going to adjust that just to see if I can prevent it happening for future lessons as well. And yes, I do wear a hat even when I'm painting on my own. So okay, I'll come back to this in a second. I'll allow that to dry a little bit now. So I'm going to pick up my brush. I've thickened my paint up now. I've got a paint thickener that I use to thicken up my paints because I want this to be quite impasto type of feeling. I don't want it too thick, but I just want that look about the paint. And I'll explain a little bit more about how I thicken the paint up later on. But I have done it in other videos. But at the moment I'm looking for quite a dark area there. At the moment I'm just looking for shapes. And as I said, this is a different type of video that I'm doing today. But it's nice to see different methods, I think. I'm not in any rush to get this painting finished and make a video and stuff like that, because if I'm doing something that's repeated like I did with the background, I'm just going to cut it out and cut to a point that I find this interesting for you to watch. So I might have a darker area there. Now this paint takes a little bit of time to dry, and I don't use this a lot during my lessons for that reason alone. But I'm going to make it, well, it is already available on the website. And again, all I'm using is a yellow, medium yellow, and a Mars black. This is where the green is coming from. And I've thickened up my paint a touch, and I'm just using this like a palette-y knife type of effect. You can see, hopefully you can see that the light is reflecting on it a bit, and there's nothing I can do about the lights. I've tried and tried and tried to get the reflection out of here, but the only other thing I could do is possibly move the lights to the side, and I haven't got the room to do that. Maybe I'll try that again. Okay, so I've run out of paint. I'm just going to mix a bit more up. I've added a bit of blue to this one this time. I just want to change the flavour a touch. I'll just get a little bit of darker colour here and there, a little bit bluer, just flicking it in like that, as if there's just a mass of trees and things. I want this to get a little bit darker into this corner. I'm just flicking in. Molly's in the studio with me. In here, Molly? What are you doing in here? What are you doing in here, Molly? She's come to see me. We've got to think of about a banking or something across there, so I'm just going to use this brush. I'm going to go straight into some yellow and just lighten the brush. I haven't cleaned my brush. I'm not worried too much about that. I want to bring a bit of light into the underside there. I'm going to put a bit of brown across the bottom of that. later on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself my script lining brush. I'm just going to put a few lines like this. Yeah, that looks pretty good so far. I think we're starting to develop that. I need to lighten this up a touch, I think. But we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm just going to put a little line, mix some black with some burnt umber. I'm going to paint in some rocks. Possibly live. Yeah. I want the rock face to come down. Just going to mix a bit more black with some brown. I want a rock face to come down. Possibly there, like that. Maybe what we're missing is a bit of blue. So let's see if I can get a bit of blue in. Very, very thinly painted. Because I was going to make the water like a green colour, but I don't know. Maybe it should be more of a blue-green colour. So I just washed over a layer of blue. I'm just going to put a bit of white on my palette. I'm just using the colours up. Coming across the colours if I need them. I'm just going to add them to my palette. That's why I'm not showing you the palette. There we are. Let's just add a bit of white. We can improve those rocks. I want to get the light to come there. A bit more white. Some little lines. I'm just going to add a little bit of white to my blue and a little bit of paint thickener to my brush, and I'm going to mix that in with my blue, so I got a thicker brush paint on my brush, I mean. So that's going to leave me some drag marks like that. See a bit more white into that blue. Get a bit lighter as we come forward, because this is where there's a lot of ripples and possibly stones in this water. Like that. I'm just going to get a white line across the bank like that. Smooth that in a bit. It looks a bit more feasible to me. I've got some of this black and brown mix. I'm going to put a couple of maybe rock shapes just in this water. I can adjust these in a second. I just down a darken there. Again, let's just get some turbulence in this water. Because you can imagine this river is running reasonably fast, I would imagine. I don't know. I'm just making this up as I go along here. But that's my feeling on this, is that there could be a fast flowing water possibly coming off a mountain or or something like that. I don't know, but that's the idea I get, and I can see some possibly that's going to be the break of the waterfall there. I'll just put that line in just to help me. So yeah, I can see the water starting to build up there. I like the trees so far. Maybe I could put a I could go another tone lighter, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to add a bit more yellow to my palette. So I mixed some more Mars black and yellow with a bit of thickening agent, and I'm just got a very thick brush full of paint, and what I'm trying to do now is maybe put in some lightness into a few of these tree shapes, just to develop maybe a little bit of contrast here. This is going to be a lot lighter than that. I want that to be a lot lighter than this colour, so I'm just going to put a bit, there's going to be another like tree shape there, but what I thought I'd do now is just build up maybe some grass area like this. This is quite thick, and it's bordering on the thickness of oil paint. there's a lot of mist stuff being flung up by this waterfall, so it's going to cause the growth of a lot of grass and stuff. I'm just going to put a little bit of texture in there like that. It's going to cause a lot of growth of moss and stuff like that. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow to that paint, which you can do because it's got a thickener in it. And I'm just going to maybe flow in a bit of light over here like this, and maybe a little bit of light like this. Might be a good idea now, thinking about it, is to maybe put a bit of like a raw sienna type of colour into this massive green. Now the trick with painting this type of stuff is, what I've learned off my good friend Jason really, is that all you need to show is a massive colour is with trees, because otherwise is millions and millions of hundreds of thousands of leaves on the trees, and you're never going to paint them all. So what you do is just paint a mass of colour, and hopefully it'll look right. that's the key. That's the plan. That's a little bit too light across there. I want it a bit darker than that. No, even darker than that. In actual fact, I'm just going to throw a bit of brown into my green. A little bit of light doesn't matter anyway. I don't want it too light, otherwise it just doesn't look convincing then. And you can't really see what that's going to look like until it's dry. But I'm going to get some of this dark green, because this is a rock there, and I know that it's going to have grass and stuff growing on it, so I'm just going to put a few little indications of grass and stuff. I'm just using my brush like a palette knife just to get that effect of maybe there's a little bit of light and just grass growing down that rock face there like that. Again, I can tidy that up a little bit more in just a second, but for the moment it's just a guide for me, because when I come to paint something like this for a lesson on YouTube, then I know what I'm going to be painting. But at this particular moment in time, with this painting, I don't know what I'm painting, so I'm just trying to get to grips with where things are going to sit and lie. And I won't be painting this again, I've decided, because there's no point really. But I just want to show you. I was just going to do a part of this and just put it out and then show you the whole painting, but I got the rocks in there now, so we need to work out some more rocks and some grass. This is going to be a grass area there. So what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to let that rest. I'll let it dry, and I think I'll come back to that another day, and that's what I do. I don't paint all this one go. It might take me a couple of days to actually work on this. I'm just going to leave it there, and I'll come back like this. Okay, so thank you very much for coming back like that. I've had a bit of a camera issue. One of my cameras have failed, and obviously I don't know what's happened, but my my sound recorder's gone down as well for some particular reason, so I've had to come to the other side of the studio after I've painted this, and I was waffling on for quite a bit, I must admit, and I didn't realise I had no sound and one of the cameras had failed. So there you go, technical issues. So I'm sitting in the editing suite at the moment, and I'm just currently narrating this for you. So one of the biggest mistakes we make as we begin, and which was the first mistake I made when I set out on this painting, is that I actually painted the background too dark. If you have a look at some reference photos and things, or just go and stand out in your garden, if you've got mountain range or some fields or whatever you've got there, even if you're just walking a dog or something like that, or you can take your cat for a walk, and trust me, I've seen people take their cats for a walk. If you have a look in the distance, you'll see things that are a lot lighter and a lot bluer in the distance. Even if you've got a short focal distance, like what I'm working on here is the distant trees now at the moment. I'm just trying to correct an issue there, which I'll explain in 1 second. I painted the background trees in too dark. I should have gone in a lot lighter and a lot bluer. And then the midground is going to be slightly darker, and then the foreground is going to be darker again. So that creates the depth in the painting. Now, by painting your background in too dark in the first place, then you've got a fight on your hands to try and correct things. So you've got to try and either make your darks darker in your midground and your foreground, or you've got to make your lights really light. And that really makes a painting look a little bit flat. And this is the thing that I was trying to get across to you in this painting, is that this is a painting of mistakes. So I'm battling with the painting now. I'm fighting harder than I should have actually done in the first place. So if we paint correctly, if we remember certain things, like your background should be always a lot lighter, a lot cooler, a lot bluer then in fact, and you try to warm up your tones a little bit as you come forward, and you're making your midground slightly darker than your background, and your foreground darker than your midground, which is a lot darker than the background. Now, the mistake I've also made is that I'm using greens in the same value range. So the green that I'm putting onto the foreground trees now, as you can see, or the midground trees if you want, is going to be the same type of green as the background trees. Therefore, the values, there's no difference in the values. They're the same type of green, in fact. That gives the appearance of this painting that's going to be flat. Now, I'm trying to battle with this now. I'm trying to bring my greens a lot brighter. Now, by doing that, adding white to green again, or any other colour, then you're going to just make it look horrible. You're bleaching it out, basically. You're taking that colour out. You've got to it's got to come so white in fact, that it looks very, very chalky, and this is the problem I've got. So I'm trying to battle with that idea at the moment, but it's not looking too bad, you know. For a lesson like this, then you can try to recover these mistakes. So what I'm going to do now is concentrate on highlights. I need to bring some light and depth into this painting, which is not an easy thing to do. Trust me, it's not an easy thing to do. And so I'm just picking up some green. I've made the green now with a bit of Mars black and cadmium yellow. I've added a lot of white into that. So I'm just proceeding to paint in some highlights, trying to find out some shapes, because this is going to be a waterfall, so there's going to be a lot of mist. There's going to be a lot of mist and stuff flying through the air. So there's going to be rocks positioned just to the side, the right and left of the waterfall, which is going to have a lot of moss on it. So this is going to be a painting of green. There's going to be a lot of greens in this painting, and again, not my strongest point, or anybody's strongest point, in fact, to play around with so many different values of green in one painting. So you've got to get your colours right. You've got to concentrate on the background. If you get your background correct, the rest of it is easy. So I've been mixing a little bit of blue together now. I've put a little bit of warmth to this blue. I've got a Prussian blue and I've got the ultramarine blue, I think, there. I can't remember exactly what colours I got on the palette, in fact. But yeah, so I'm just making a warmish blue, which is going to be my background for my waterfall. So this is where the shadows now come in to the water. So I'm just adding that in and just plonking it where I think it'll live. Adding a nice rock face now. Again, adding some shadows in there. I'm going to make it slightly blurry because it's going to be, a lot of it's going to be behind some water. I quite like this type of paintings. If this painting was done properly, it would be really, really nice. So I'm expecting a lot of you to actually join me on Facebook and take this lesson and listen to some of the tips I've given you and see if you can recreate this lesson and try and correct it. And I'd like to see what your efforts are, because as you know, I am going to be doing a lot more live Q&As and things now. So Facebook is the place to come and post your paintings and ask me some questions and things like that. There's also a community tab now on the YouTube channel, so pop along there and have a look. Join me in the community and leave me comments and questions in there as well. You can leave the comments and questions on the video itself if you want to. I'm going to make every effort I can to get you and give you some more tips. I'm going to be doing some live painting lessons as well, so that's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a bit different for me because I'm so used to waffling along and painting. So it's going to be different for me to be able to paint, waffle, and also look at the stream comments that's going to come through. And it's going to be hard work. But I enjoy it, and I'm going to enjoy painting lives, and I'm going to be doing some quick technical painting lessons as well. These are all going to be live, hopefully. Or I can pre-record some and then narrate over them like I'm doing now. So there's going to be lots of content in 2019 for you, and join the community and let's help each other improve in our painting capabilities. That is very, very, very important indeed. I'm just working more on these rocks now. I've just put a bit of burnt umber, added a bit of black into that as well, a little bit of Prussian blue. It's a really nice type of Prussian blue and burnt umber make a lovely black, Try it out. Try mixing 50-50 and add a little bit of white to it and see some wonderful greys that you can actually get from that. That said, I'm just looking for shapes. You can see the brush strokes that I'm actually going to be using. Some brush strokes I make sure there's a lot of thick paint on. Others I got very little paint on my brush and I'm just dragging down to get the effect. I'm not afraid to let the canvas colour that I've already put on show through because that adds as well. I'm proceeding now to actually put in some blue, just blocking out. I love this blocking out stage. It looks so ugly, but we can try and make it look pretty. That's the plan. It is, yes. I've got a waterfall down in West Wales. Ammerford Falls, I think it's called. I've never actually been there, but you know, hey, maybe I'll have a little trip down West Wales this coming summer. We've got a lovely place called St David's. We've got some castles down there like Manorbier Castle and Carmarthen Castle, and there's some wonderful places around West Wales which I think I'll visit. I might take a day or two out, and yes, I think I will take the wife away for a couple of days, and she can do a little bit of shopping and I'll shoot off with a camera and do a little bit of videoing. I think that would be nice. It certainly would. So I'm going to put some colour down into the base of the waterfall now. This is a pond or a river. The river's running to the left hand side away from us. We can't see it because the foreground is going to consist of just grass and a bank, I think. Okay, recording 2. Yeah, so just wanted to put some more brown into this side of the rock. Again, as you can see, I've sped up the video just a touch, but I'm looking for shades and shapes and shadows, and you can see the way I'm actually putting in the brown, the dark brown parts and the lighter brown parts, just to build some shapes up. And what's going to happen is it's going to develop the shapes for you. I'm moving over to the right hand side now. Again, I'm just doing the same type of thing. So I'm putting some lighter colour on top of the darker colour, and if you just see how the shapes develop, it's amazing sometimes that you can paint these things like rocks and they paint themselves really. So it's important that you sit back and just relax into the painting. And if you have made mistakes, then you can either try and correct them, or you can just say, okay, maybe I'll just wait for that to dry and I can paint over it and go from there. Because what I could do, in fact, is the background, the first green I put in, I could just paint that out. I just paint a bit of gesso over that when it's dry, and then I could repaint that section, and then just bring a couple of little bit of leaves and things over that then, and I could correct it that way if I wanted to. But it's a long drawn out process, and sometimes it's just better just to carry on and accept your mistakes and go from there really, and just learn from that, because the only way we can learn by doing anything is just make mistakes. So never think of a mistake as the end of the world. It's not. It's the beginning of a journey, and in that way then you can enjoy the process. So flicking on a little bit of white paint now, which I've mixed into the bit of brown, the burnt umber, and I'm just putting a few highlights on some of the rocks where I can see that the highlight could fall if they were rocks, and that's basically all I'm doing. Going to put some white paint now on the top of the waterfall, just under the rocks to bed them in. These rocks are on the riverbed, and this could be the waterfall that's from that last painting I did last week. In fact, this could be from the mountain. So this could be the water that's all defrosted and running into the river and down that little bit of a waterfall area that I painted in that mountain painting last week. And I tell you what I could do, I'll put that in the iCards, which is in the top right hand corner, and you can go along and have a look at that painting, because that was a really good painting. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I am going to use a palette knife, and I'm going to put some rock shapes into these rocks with a palette knife like I did on the mountain. I think that would be good. I think I'll do that. Yeah, so I'm just going to proceed painting the shadows on the back ends of these rocks where I think shadow's going to fall. Where's shadow going to fall? It all depends on your light source really, doesn't it? But I mean, yeah, if you're not sure, just make it up and have a bit of fun. If it looks right, then it is right. If it doesn't look right, then try and correct it. You know, it's your painting at the end of the day, and as I said in many times, just sit back and have a look at it, or rest your eyes, go and make yourself a cup of tea or make yourself a cup of coffee, and basically just enjoy painting. And when you come back, everything changes. Now the reason I don't like a lot of green is because I am slightly colourblind on greens, and I find it very difficult to differentiate between mid-tone greens and light greens and dark greens. To me, it looks green. Well, I presume it's green. It could be purple to all I know. But yes, I overcompensate. I make my greens too dark, and I can make my greens too light, just so I can see that colour difference. And I think that's mainly where I struggle with landscapes, because I'm not a landscape painter. I don't like painting landscapes. I just do it because it's a challenge for myself. And this particular painting, this is roughly the mistakes I made when I first started out with landscapes. Is I was painting the backgrounds in too dark, and I've learnt over the years to lighten them up, blue them up, and just get that difference. So I'm very conscious when I actually do paint a landscape now that I make my greens up beforehand, and I just check my palette just to make sure that you know, there is a major difference between one green and another. I can tell if it's a light green on its own, but I got a job to tell when it's mixed in with mid-tone greens and dark greens, and I always tend to make those greens a little bit on the dark side. So I'm aware. What I've learned over the years is that I'm really aware now that my greens need to be lighter. Even my darker greens need to be lighter. So as I just said, now I'm going to mix up my my palette knife colours. I've got a little bit of raw sienna, a yellow ochre, sorry. I've got a bit of yellow ochre, and I'm going to put some burnt umber to it in a second. And I'm just going to proceed to let the paint slide off the palette knife. If you've never done this before, you're going to need a thick, dry paint. Now, what I've got on the website, which is www.clive5art.co.uk, is a thickening gel that you can purchase, and you can add that to any acrylic paint, which is going to give you a very thick, dry, impasto type of paint, which you can use with a palette knife. And this is what I'm using in this instance. And I used to do a lot of Bill Alexander, Bob Ross type style paintings back in the day in oil paints, and I really enjoyed using the palette knife, and I've just brought that method to life into acrylics, and I've made a few different products that seem to work for me and get those effects that you can get in oils. So I find acrylics are a very versatile type of medium, very versatile type of medium. So just continuing to build up these rocks, I'm going into lighter colours and darker colours, and I'm just dragging that brush, that palette knife. You can see that I've got a little roll of paint on the edge of my palette knife, and I'm just lightly touching the surface of the canvas and allowing the paint to drag off the palette knife, thus giving us a nice textured effect, as you can see. So it takes a little bit of practice. Get an old canvas, or get a little canvas board, or even some cardboard, and put a bit of colour on there, and then just play around with this paint. If you can get some of my thickening agent, it is well worth it. Trust me, it is well worth it, and it works really well. Just gets that effect of snow or broken rocks, or all these lights and darks that you wouldn't normally get unless you worked really hard with a paintbrush. I'm not saying you can't get the same effect with a paintbrush. Of course you can, but a palette knife is a tool in its own right, and it's such a wonderful implement to be able to master. And trust me, if you can master using a palette knife, then the joy that you're going to get out of painting is going to be tenfold, because you've just got another tool in your arsenal to get some effects with. And I've seen some wonderful artists out there, just that's all they use is palette knives, and yeah, it's just a great tool, really. It gives you a little bit more flexibility. It gives you a little bit more, you can express yourself more, I think, with a palette knife. You cannot avoid to be loose and free with a palette knife. I've seen very detailed paintings with a palette knife, in fact, and some of them you wouldn't think they were done with a palette knife, but it's just one of them tools that I really recommend you having a go at. And as I said, you can't make mistakes. We can't make mistakes with acrylics, because if you made a mistake with acrylic and a palette knife, then you could always scrape it off and try again. The same with oils, really, it is. So just continuing to build up these layers, finding some shadows under this grass. I'm thinking of getting a little bit of an outcrop on the rock face. I'm going to play around with some darks now, get some shadows in there, and try to balance this middle ground off from the background, because the background, as you can see, the background is actually dried, and it's dried a bit darker. Because what I want to do now is move on to the waterfall. So I picked up a small fan brush, and I've just put a little bit of titanium white with a small amount of blue in it. I don't want it bright white. I want a bit of a shadow colour to my my white, and I'm just going to very lightly drag that down on an angle, and then straight down very lightly, pulling a bit of pressure off the paintbrush. Again, drag it down, try to find some shapes where you think this water is going to fall against these rocks. put in a bit of splash underneath, because obviously that water's coming over there quite fast and it's going boosh. So just add in a little bit of that blue colour and white colour, blue and white colour into the water. Again, angle and off and swoosh, angle, down, whoosh. So just think of this, get these noises in your mind as you do this. You know, think of the water, think of water. Don't think about paint on the canvas saying psh, water hitting a rock coming down. You know, it's not going to be the same every time it hits a rock. You think of different shapes that this water can make. Whoosh, down. Just taking your pressure off your brush, putting a little bit of that big, thick, misty, splashy water down there and chucking it into that pond or a little river as it is, because it's going off to the left hand side there somewhere, because we've got to put grass and everything into this in just a second. So continue doing that and thinking about the rocks behind the waterfall, thinking about the flow of water, and then just dragging it, boosh, boosh. You just think, what a wonderful way to paint. What a wonderful way to paint. Shall we paint all over that rock, or should we just leave it poking out? Maybe we'll just leave it poking out and just have a bit of splash. Now, what's going to happen on the top of that rock is, if we don't extend the top of that rock, what's going to happen is, where's the water going to go? Because it doesn't just stop there, does it? It's got to go around. Water finds its own level. Water will always find its own level. So we need to make our rock a little bit bigger if we just want that water to come around it. So again, down the side of the rock, into the pond, little down, whoosh, there we go. Watch the way I'm doing the brush. I'm putting it on the canvas and dragging it slightly to the left or to the right before I do my vertical stroke. And just get a little bit of splash going down there, because there's a lot of water coming over this waterfall. That mountain must be melting really fast today. There you go. Just down, around, and just think, where will this water fall? And that's the cool part. So there's going to be a little bit of turbulence in the water. So let's just put a little bit of turbulence in that water. There you go, like this. Don't be too precise. Just let it be loose. And I'm still concerned about that background. It's quite dark. I might have to mist that off, I think. Right, I'm going to extend this. I'm extending this rock now, because I want that rock to be in front of the water, so it looks as if the water's going to run round the rock. Working on shadows, just to give a little bit of depth into that rock. I don't want it to look too flat. There's going to be a lot of moss and stuff growing on these side rocks, so they're going to be quite green as well. And this is a thing when you start planning paintings, you've really got to think about the tones in your paint, the values that you're going to be using in your paint. You need that difference. And that was the second mistake that I made. I've kept the tones the same. So there you go. So if you said in the beginning that I made the background too dark, you were correct. And if you said I kept the tones of the colour the same, then you're correct again. So I'm just adding a little bit more thickness to the water, like as if it's hitting a rock and you can't see it. But what I'm doing is I'm using plain titanium white now with no colour in it. So that's going to balance off against that cool blue white that we put in originally. And there's also going to be a bit of foam on the top of this water as it tumbles over the rock face and down the waterfall and splashing. It's going to be catching some light, so parts of the water are going to be looking lighter, and it's just going to be splashing. And oh, I tell you what, I could swim in that water if it wasn't too cold. I think I could. Yeah, so I got a little bit of splash. Go to town, enjoy it. At the end of the day, why not just paint a painting to practice? Why paint a painting to try and sell? Why paint a painting to give yourself stress? Paint a painting just for practice and accept what it looks like. Then don't beat yourself up about it. That's the thing you've got to do, is not to beat yourself up about the painting. Just accept the mistakes and try to correct them. And if you can't correct them, drop me a line, drop me a message, join me on Facebook, leave a message in the comments below. And ask me, and I can advise you. And yeah, just do a few paintings, even if it's just one painting a week.
just as a practice, and I think you will win. You will earn dividends on that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit of green onto these rocks, because obviously, as I said, there's a lot of mist, so there's going to be a lot of green. There's going to be a lot of moss. There's going to be a lot of lichen growing on this rock face. And again, I'm struggling with the values, because you know the values of the painting have already been set. What do I do? Well, I'm just going to make a best of a bad painting, and I'm just going to go along. I'm just going to enjoy myself now. I'm going to paint just because it's a painting, and that's what I'm doing. I'm painting a painting, and I'm painting a painting to learn, and I'm fine. I'm fine with that. And at the end of the day, as I just said to you now, if that's all you do, next time you do a painting, you're going to have a look at that, and it's going to be sitting on the wall or on a sideboard somewhere, or on a chair that you've left there to remind yourself not to make that mistake again. That's why we do what we do. So try and bring a bit of light into this green now, to try and set the foreground away from the midground, because the midground is dark, because the background is dark. So I've got to try and brighten up my greens now. I'm going to just stand up a second. And I'm working on the left hand side now. I'm going to continue doing that for the next couple of minutes, I think. A little bit, I'm continuing to build this green in. As you can see, it does look flat. Indeed it does look flat, and I am aware it looks flat, but I thought, well, let's just go for it. Let's just have fun. Let's just enjoy what's left of the painting. And can we learn from what we're doing? Of course we can. This is why you were watching the video, and this is why I'm painting the video. And I thought, well, if there's too much green in the painting, what harm can it be if I put more green in the painting? So that's exactly what I've started to do. And as I sit here and narrate in this video, I've got Molly on my lap, and she's a wonderful little dog. She's always joins me in the studio, and she's flat out. I've got the heater to my right hand side, and that is constantly running at a high temperature, because it is freezing here in Wales today. I don't mind saying, not as cold as around a lot of places around the world, I should imagine. I shouldn't complain really, because you know, I know some parts of the world are just phenomenally cold, but for Wales it's cold. And I so enjoy painting, and I don't mind coming out in the studio and painting and editing videos and narrating, because it's all thanks to you fantastic subscribers out there that have taken the time not just to watch my videos, not just to watch my lessons, but to comment and send me emails and press that subscribe button. Just by pressing that subscribe button, trust me, you make my day. You really do. And it just brings it home to me why I do these things, and why I make these lessons, and why I put myself under so much stress. But not always. So what I've decided to do particularly now, I thought, right, let's put a little tree on top of that. Let's put a little tree on top of that rock. And why not? Because this little tree, he's all on his own. He's been there, and the water's been running over that waterfall, and it's blowing all his leaves off. He hasn't got many leaves left, love him. And nobody seems to care about him. He's out there, he's all on his own. But he's surviving. He's surviving, as we should all do. This is why sometimes as artists we are very lonely people, because we sit in our studios, in our lounges, in our wherever we've got our easel, and 99% of the time we're on our own. 99% of the time we're in the quiet. There's nobody there to bother us, and we just get on with it. But we are very lonely people as artists, and I think with the community that YouTube has given me, it's given me the opportunity to talk to wonderful people like yourselves and just pass on what I've learned. I don't pretend to teach anybody anything. You can't teach old dog new tricks, and you certainly can't teach a chef how to cook eggs. But you know, all all we do is just have experience, practice and learn, and hopefully pass that knowledge on to people like yourself. This is what I try to do. I just pass some knowledge on and say, hey, give it a try. Why not give it a try? I got Molly now. She's actually fast asleep on my lap, and if you listen very quietly, I'll just drop my mic and you might be able to hear her crying. There you go. I think I bored her silly. I think I've talked so much, I think she's just fallen asleep. There she goes. I think what she's doing is she's actually running across over in those woods over there, and she's chasing some squirrels or some rabbits or whatever she decides she's chasing. And I think that's where she is. She's over there in that dark little area just off the bank of that river, and she's running around in there. And there you go. Okay, so again, look, I'm limited to greens, aren't I? So I've got no option now than to keep using the same value green. So the value green that I'm using in the foreground now is roughly the same as the midground, which is roughly the same as the background. So I've really got myself into a bit of a pickle. And again, the only thing I can do is just brighten this green up. Whereas if that background was a little bit lighter, the midground was just slightly darker, and the foreground was darker with some lighter highlights, this would look a fantastic painting. So give it a try. Please see if you can improve on this. It's not going to be difficult to improve on this. Trust me, it really isn't. So I'm just going to block out the base of this painting now, and just basically use up the greens I'm using. And don't forget, I'm just using a Mars black and some yellow, some medium yellow, and that is giving you quite a dark green. So try using some Prussian blue and some yellow. Try using some cerulean blue and some yellow. Cerulean blue has got a green undertone, so that give you a different type of green. Try using ultramarine and yellow. Try mixing all these different colours. Cobalt blue and yellow makes a nice green as well. And you've got primary blues, which tend to have no bias at all to them. With a nice yellow will obviously give you different greens. You can use a yellow ochre and a blue. Again, that'll give you different greens again. So just try practicing with these, and see what greens that you can come up with. I'm going to add a little bit of colour here and there just to get myself some shadow. I'm trying to basically darken off the midground now, so the foreground can stand out. And again, as I said, it's just a constant build-up of problems. Every time you try to solve one problem, you'll get another problem, and it's all down to tones, it's all down to values. It's all down to that depth. And the first brush stroke we put on, we should have stopped. We should have realised that, hey, this is going to be too dark. It's going to be too dark. But sometimes we don't do that because we get pulled into the moment. So I've just put in place a rock now to the left hand side of the painting, and I'm proceeding to try and get some grass effect, because this is a banking. This could be another rock face like you've got opposite, and this is just looking over into that little waterfall pond. That's a nice name for this painting, a troubled waterfall pond. I'm going to have to write that down, and that's exactly what I'm doing. A troubled waterfall pond. There we are, and I've written that in Welsh, so I know what it is. So, yes, what a fantastic painting. Have you learned things? Have you learned anything from this? Yes. Don't watch Clive's videos because he makes a mess. No, I'm only joking. I hope you've learned. I hope you've learned something from this, because it's reminded me of my mistakes, my failings when I was first started out doing these landscape type green effect paintings. As you know, I don't like greens whatsoever. But there you go. I did a challenge. Jason Bowen challenged me to greens a while ago now, and what I'm going to have to do is put that in the iCards for you to show you the painting I did there. I think it was called The Long Walk Home or Walk Home or something like that, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to give it a try. And I did struggle in the beginning of that video, I must admit. I put the video in the iCards for you to look at. But continuing to build on this and just making the most of it and just enjoying painting. Now, I've given up worrying about am I going to fix it or how can I repair it. You get to a point where you decide, hey, enough's enough. You know, I've tried too hard here. I'm not going to correct it. All I'm going to do now is continue making a mess of it. And I think, really speaking, that when we get to that stage, well, don't give up. Just continue until you're ready to stop. Now, to my eye, it's too green. It's too much the same value. It's very flat. There's no depth. The mid-ground rocks, the waterfall looks nice. I'm quite pleased with the waterfall. In fact, I'm going to put a little bit of blue on top of that waterfall, and I'm thinned out a little bit of blue with my medium mix, or you can use a little bit of water if you want to, just to add a little bit of shadow, a little bit of depth into that waterfall. But as I said, you know, I'm not happy with it as a painting, but I'm happy with it as a tutorial to show you what not to do. As I said, this is down to you. I want you to improve on this painting. I really do want you to make that comment, come along to the Facebook group, join the community on the YouTube channel, pop along to Pinterest, pop along to Instagram, and send me an email and show me your waterfall painting. Yes. A troubled waterfall pond. There we go. So I'm just putting a little bit of dark and a little bit of white, brighter leaves out onto this little bit of tree, because I thought he was looking quite sad and I wanted to cheer him up a bit. So I've added some leaves. Don't know how long they'll last with the amount of water that's coming over that waterfall, and you know. And let's just put a few little highlights. Let's just put a few little highlights now into this waterfall. There you go, slowly dragging down with the brush. I got the paint quite thin, so just put those little highlights in there, just little flecks of bright white, just to show that, you know, it could be really frothy water, couldn't it? It could. I really do need a cup of tea, I think. I'm gonna knock this on the head, as they say in Wales. I'm gonna end this video shortly, I think. But saying that, I just want to do a few more little things here and there. I clap my hands there because what I normally do is when I put my, as you know, I'm narrating this at the moment because I had a problem with the camera, and to get my cameras synced, because they've all got sound on them, well, the ones I video with, and I sync up my sound with a clap. So I go camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, syncing cameras. And there you go. And when I come into the editing suite, it picks up on those marks on the volume bar, because they're going to be louder than anything else. And then I can set all those videos in sync. And sometimes that doesn't work, and you'll see some videos are slightly out of sync. Again, what I'm trying to do now is correct again, so by putting more lighter greens in. But you know, at this point, I think I've just given up. To be quite honest with you, I really do. I've given up on this painting, but you know, I'm happy with it. It'll sit in the studio over to my right hand side, or to my left hand side, sorry, and it'll be in the painting rack there, and I'll most probably run the sandpaper over it. I got a sanding block, and I'll re-gesso, and it'll be on another lesson shortly, I would imagine. But for now, I hope you've learned something from this. So I'm just going to try to make a rock. I'm putting some dark bits in and some lighter bits in, and just trying to bring some life to this foreground. So I hope you've enjoyed being in the studio with myself today. This is slightly different, as I said. I was talking in the beginning of it and made some mistakes on purpose, just to show you that the process of trying to recover things are not as easy as it looks. So what I think I'll do now is I'll make up some very thin paint. This is a zinc mist in white. It's a mist in white that I've got available on the website, or I should have by the time this video goes out. www.clive5art.co.uk. It's a very semi-transparent white paint, which I thin with some medium mix, again available on the website, or a little bit of water, and it just gives you that mist effect. And I don't know if you've noticed, have a look at the first bit I painted in this video, the background. Can you see that it's a lot lighter than the midground? Because I put a mist of white paint over it. Don't use titanium white, it's too opaque. This is a mist in white. You can use zinc white, zinc mix in white. It does the same type of effect, but the paint I've developed is a lot less, is a lot more transparent. In fact, is very transparent, and it just gives that wonderful misty effect. And that's why the background looks a little bit lighter. The midground has come to life. I could darken the foreground, a little bit. I could put a glaze of a darker colour over that. Now, rather than using the white in the mist, I could use a darker green in the zinc white, and that will darken down the green, so I can make my lights darker in the foreground, which will make it stand out more. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to work on this mist and just try and get the end of this tutorial now, and hopefully you've learned a few more little tricks and tips, and there's always ways around problems and mistakes, and as I said, learn by those mistakes. That's the important thing. And just do, even if it's once a month, just do one painting and just use that. Don't worry about what it's going to look like. Just go through a different process. Try painting a pet, or try painting some still life or something you've never done before, and just learn by that. Okay, so I've brushed in a little bit of paint now onto the front of that waterfall, just to make that stand back away a little bit. And there's going to be a lot of water, a lot of froth coming down there. I'm going to come to the end of this tutorial now, so I want to thank you very much for watching through this. Please let me know, again, as I said, in the comments below, or on the Facebook group or Instagram or Pinterest or whatever social media platform you decide, and let me know what you think, and let me know what problems you've got, and then I'll do a live broadcast and we'll see if we can't sort these out. So let me know before the live broadcast, so I can maybe even do a little bit of a painting and explain my way through a process. This is why I wanted to do this today, is to show you that I can explain a lot of the problems by doing a painting and narration. And thank you very much for joining me in the studio. Molly's still on my lap, and just paint away that stress of everyday life with myself, Clive, in Wales at 7:30 every Monday. And don't forget, there will be live broadcasts on a Thursday, so they might not be every week, but at the moment, but they will be there. So just keep an eye on the channel and I'll keep you updated. So until then, bye and happy painting.